Welcome to the February 23rd edition of the PFF Podcast. This one is going to be a real treat, and here's why. Eric Eager is trying to get a passport renewed. I cannot wait to hear how this is going to happen. We're also going to talk football as well. We've got a top quarterback taken prop that we're going to discuss for the upcoming draft. We have some division futures. We also have a no, yes segment, which is the USFL. It's going to be a beautiful podcast. We might even talk about cleanses, Aaron Rodgers in particular. Let's rock.
This is how I know you were so giddy about making fun of me. You introed that as the PFF podcast.
Let me just speak from experience. Did I tell you my passport renewal story?
No.
Okay, so I'll let you go first. Tell me, because you started the story. I made you stop so that you could tell me about the podcast. What are you trying to do here?
Well, my lovely sister is getting married. She lives in Hungary, Budapest-ish. And when she got engaged, like they're having like two weddings. They're having one where I grew up in St. Paul, and then they're having one in Budapest. And she didn't invite anybody other than my parents to this Budapest wedding. But I'm still like, do the pictures look the same? Like if it's always been the four of us.
Is it Budapest or Budapest? What are you saying?
The people that live there would say Budapest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Budapest is how it's spelled.
Right.
Like, yeah. So
it's kind of like a Biva.
Yeah. So anyway, Hungary, by the way, I believe the country with the most Nobel Prize winners per capita in the world. Yeah.
And that's why you're going.
Well, I am Hungarian. I don't know if I look it.
No. I don't even know what I.
But anyway, So I'm like, I was visiting the Twin Cities last week. I was having a discussion with my parents. I'm like, should I just go to, I need it. But like, obviously we're busy. And like, also like, I didn't know if I wasn't supposed to go. Also COVID's been weird. And like, you know, my sister finally came back to the States over Christmas for the first time in 2 years because of the restrictions and stuff. So I kind of was just like minding my own business. And then I'm like, wait a sec. If I want to go, I have to get my passport. And I haven't been, the last time I went overseas, I went to Hungary, and I haven't been back since like 2011. My passport's been expired for 3 or 4 years. So I did all like the paperwork to do it, and then of course because we're hiring and we have the combine next week and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, when am I going to get to the DMV to even do this thing? Take my picture, like all this kind of stuff, like get it set up, and I have to get it expedited because if you just put it in there, it's going to take like 6 months. So I'm a little panicky right now.
Okay, so let's do some math here. When do you have to get on a flight to Budapest?
So it's like April 1st or so.
Okay.
So I'm like kind of screwed.
So today is February 23rd.
Yeah.
There's 1 week-ish left in February. That's generous. Not quite. And then there's 5 weeks in March. So you've got just about 6 weeks. I don't know if you're aware, but the expedited version of your passport, it's like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So I tried to do the same thing. Now why do you have to take a picture?
I don't know. Like,
is your picture expired? Because in some situations, I don't think you need to take a new picture, but I'd take the picture, you put it in the mail. Let me tell you my horror story.
Oh no.
I went and did the same thing. And I actually did it in plenty of time. I had like 3 months before I was going to Mexico. And I got it expedited just because at that time with COVID, there were so many people that were getting it renewed to travel that like the average wait time was just ridiculous. So like, okay, I'm paying to get this expedited. Have you filled out the forms yet?
I have filled out the forms.
Okay. I would give those like a second, third, and fourth read.
Oh, really?
Because I like missed some section on the form that I thought looked like a section that was only to be filled out by the office.
Yeah.
I like didn't fill out like one thing. And what they do is they send you by mail a notice that you're missing some information because it's the US government and they like couldn't possibly be bothered to use the internet. So that set me back to the point where I was not going to be able to get on this flight. And if you need to get your passport like turned around in 24 hours, you have to try and find an opening at a passport like registered office. And these are like harder to get than reservations at a 3-star like restaurant. I happened to get one in like Prescott, Arizona. I was gonna have to fly to Prescott, Arizona to get this passport renewed. I had sat probably on hold for like 10 hours with an automated system to try and talk to a human being. I finally talked to a human being and was able to finagle my way into them calling the place and getting it pushed through. But I was about to have to take a detour to Prescott, Arizona right before my flight to get it turned around and then get to where I was taking my flight. So I'm just preparing you
for the worst.
For the worst, because it sounds like you're cutting it a little close.
I do feel like I'm cutting, and look, I have the out here because obviously, like, she's getting married where I grew up and stuff, but.
You would feel like a huge asshole if you missed that.
I do think that. I believe that. But I do like, but there was anyway. So I'm going to go through the grind here.
Okay, that was thank you for telling that story. We're going to follow up on this. We're going to see how this goes. I am going to say that right now we got to put a line on this. We got to put a line on this. I'm going to say, so first off, there's one line, which is how many days before you leave will you get your passport? And I would set the line at like 2.5.
Do I leave until
so 2.5? You get your passport 3 days or more before you leave. Or
so I know my dad listens to this podcast, so like it's so, but he doesn't bet, so I'm gonna like say this in a way that maybe like you'll understand, but maybe he won't understand and be disappointed. I give myself plus 200 to make this wedding.
I think that's fair.
Like I would, and
plus 200, you make it. Yeah, it might be even longer than that. Yeah. Okay, we have one more thing to talk about before we get to real football. We teased this on the podcast on Sunday. We were about to go play some basketball. We said we were going to play. We had a doubleheader.
Mm-hmm. We did.
And that's only partially true because the first game we definitely played. I don't know if you can say that we played the second game. That was a complete disaster. How are you feeling? Because we had 6 people.
And I'm not in basketball shape.
When was the last time you played basketball?
It was when I tore when I
tore your calf. When was that?
This was pre-pandemic.
That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was like the week after the Super Bowl 2020.
That's right, because you were hobbling around the combine like you
the last time you were at the combine. Somebody had shot me in the leg, and because it did feel like somebody had freaking shot me in the leg.
The best part about Eric, you doing like during this time period, was you insisted that you'd be okay walking places, and you'd just be walking with a group of people and be like, where the fuck did Eric go? And you'd look behind him, he's literally like dragging his leg through Indianapolis. Are you still sore?
No, I feel so. I have the rowing machine at home. I did some intense rows, but here's what was great about it. So yesterday, my daughters wanted to go, so they wanted to do like a pool day or whatever. And it was super expensive and super filled up on the weekends. And like, I'm still not about swimming at places with COVID and everything. So
it's the COVID that gets you scared of that? It's not just like sharing a pool with a bunch of random people. That's interesting. Okay.
Are they connected though?
I mean, COVID regardless, like,
yeah,
that's interesting.
But are they connected though? Like, I don't like public pools because of people.
Because of the people.
But people.
But COVID is not necessarily the issue. It's like it's one of the many issues.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
They're like connected, right? Like there's a certain
It's like adding a grain of sand onto like a metric ton of sand and being like, well, now I can't go.
Yeah, okay. So I did get I've done some things to try to get my body back in shape after the games. But Monday, make no mistake,
not feeling good.
Every ligament in my elbow felt like it was going to tear off. My freaking calf, both of them felt like they were going to tear off. And like, I don't know, I felt during the game, like I'm obviously not good anymore, But I felt somewhat useful in the first game. Like they had some bigs that could rebound and stuff, and I was like getting in their way and getting rebounds and moving them around. I made a three, but like in the second game, I was a complete joke.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I also like destroyed my finger like 2 minutes into the first game. I was like, oh, this is gonna be like this. Like, you know, what a huge wuss I'm gonna be. But playing the whole first game, I underestimated how much that would make me after a rest period feel like I was completely drained. That's what got me. I was like, oh, I'm going to have all the gas I need in the world. And I did for the first game. I played the whole first game. And then I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize what my like recovery ability was. I also made the mistake of working out fairly rigorously the morning of. I might not try that for our next game. But
yeah, I certainly did not use like any workout machines before.
You did not use the rower before the
game?
Okay.
I am. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I am gonna lift weights today when we're done. Like I'm on my way home.
Congrats.
Like all that stuff. We'll see if I'll be able to do that the following weeks. Next week we're gonna be at the combine, but the week after that, how much I can handle as far as like weightlifting, playing basketball, rowing, all that stuff.
It's a shame that in Indy, there isn't like a basketball court that everyone can use. That would be sweet.
That would be fun. We do get to see Roger Goodell do Pilates though.
Oh, that's right. He's in the gym. We should do from the combine. We should just do stories from the combine gym. Yeah. That's all people need to know. The combine gym is an absolute
Adam
treat.
Schefter having his phone like this, holding on to the TV on the treadmill, walking while trying to text.
Yeah, it's
a privilege.
It's impressive. That I'll take copious notes if I make it there. Okay, let's transition nicely into actual football content. Before we do, a reminder that if you are looking, and you should be, for the best football content and tools to prepare you for next season and through next season, go to pff.com right now. Use promo code FORECAST, FORECAST, and get 25% off any PFF subscription. So with an Edge subscription, which costs you less than like $3 a month, you get the NFL Draft Guide, which will be updating very consistently up until the draft. You get all of PFF's locked article content. You'll be able to completely unlock all of the tools within the mock draft simulator. It's starting to get really fun. By the way, it appears that there are people that use the mock draft simulator a lot. I was looking at some data and like there's a fair number of people that are used this thing over like 300 times already. So
good for them.
I'm impressed. 2022 free agency rankings completely unlocked as well. All the data and grades that you love. Plus, through next season with that annual subscription, you get all the fancy tools, betting dashboards with an elite subscription. So now is the time to buy. Go to pff.com, use that promo code FORECAST, and get yourself set up for success. You know what you could try for your basketball game is a cleanse, like Aaron Rodgers. Just came out of a 12-day cleanse feeling really grateful.
Dude, he was, and like I'm somewhat of like a happy drunk, but he, you know, I'm not like a mean drunk. I'm a very happy drunk. But Rodgers was in a trance during like he was. I mean, the guy was taking swings. He was shooting a shot with his ex-girlfriend or / fiance. Were they ever boyfriend girlfriend? They feel like they just started at fiance right away, right? Like that was also odd. Rodgers a very interesting guy. Not a conventional guy, I would say.
Okay, so I did a little research. Not a lot of research, a little research.
What was your own research, which is important to know?
It's important. On this cleanse. So when you hear cleanse, I just thought like, oh, what he drank like spinach juice for, you know,
did the fat, sick, and nearly dead
for 12 days. He did what's called a panchakarma cleanse. Panchakarma cleanse is a 5-step detox process that cleanses the body of all unwanted waste. Many have reported that the cleanse heals the digestive system, enhances immunity, produces deep relaxation, and a meditative outlook on life, among other things.
These are not FDA approved.
Hence the gratitude. But I kept reading.
I love how you could just say shit like this and it not like be
the
verified by anything.
What I want to know is how much he was charged for this cleanse. Because so here's the thing, right? All those things sound great.
Right.
Can you not do that on your own? I don't know. Here's what they do. The first step is called vomit, and I'm probably mispronouncing these. I'm sure someone, but here's what it is. The administration of emetic drugs that induce a severe spell of vomiting to clean the to clean the upper gut. Okay, the upper gut. The next thing is Virachon, forced diarrhea that purges and cleanses the bowel.
The lower gut.
Apparently, that's the bowel here. Bosti, medicated enema used to cleanse the accumulated toxins through the colon. Nasaya, nasal administration of medicated oil to cleanse the accumulated toxin. Raktamoshana, a procedure done to cleanse the blood. I'm sure that one's FDA approved. The cleanse also includes 3 days of consuming, and this one is my favorite one. Okay, of all this crazy shit, this is the one that fucking got me. Okay, 3 days. I'm gonna try to make this without laughing. 3 days of consuming ghee, which is a clarified butter, until you evacuate at both ends.
God damn it.
I fucking lost it when I read that.
Can we so for a couple things here.
You're just eating clarified butter for 3 days until
butter So here's a couple things.
Hold on, I'm not done.
Oh, really? Okay, he's still going.
1 day
still evacuating.
1 day of therapeutic vomiting, 1 day laxative therapy, three days of herb drops in nose, many days of enemas, yoga and meditation throughout.
Oh god.
So there you go. That was what he did. Do you have any football takeaways from that?
Yeah, a few. First, he is continuing the Packers tradition of vomiting profusely. The Packers quarterback tradition of vomiting profusely. I think, I tweeted this out, but I feel like, look, he's never said he looked up to Favre, but he clearly does.
Here's an interesting one. Who's the wonkier guy, Rodgers or
Favre? Favre is Favre's the most normal guy compared to. This is absurd.
Wait, Brett, are you more normal than Aaron?
Maybe. Look, I don't know what an enema is, but
how many of these words?
If it starts coming out of both sides, I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah, as long as you don't send the pictures of that to anyone.
The other one, by the way, clarified butter. People think he doesn't like Wisconsin anymore.
Is ghee something? Because actually, what's interesting is ghee is used in a lot of like Mediterranean cooking. Like that's how I actually know what ghee is, and even the smell of it when cooking makes me want to vomit. So I would do really well.
I mean, when I poured the butter on Tresh, I almost threw up.
That wasn't even ghee. That was non-clarified butter.
Yeah, but that
was dirty butter.
I just
is dirty butter a podcast?
I do think somebody should create a podcast making fun of this.
Just what we have.
But like
that's what we're doing.
The problem is this is not unusual for Rodgers. Like there are articles from 2014 where the guy was earthing. You remember that?
I do remember that. I guess what I'm trying to come away with is, so he's coming back to the Packers, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what you have to read from this.
Yeah.
And that means that they're going to figure out a way to get Davante Adams. And does that mean that you're now betting on the Packers
Yeah, so you look at the division futures right now, I would take Green Bay at minus 167 because you look at the rest of the division, and it was up for a while, it was down for a while. Rodgers coming back to the Packers is minus 250. I think that's actually worth a bet.
I agree.
Vikings are actually have shorter, so the Packers went from minus 225 to minus 165. The Vikings, I think, are getting the majority of that, going from plus 350 or so to plus 275. Okay, here's a question. Who has a better chance of going back to their respective teams? Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers?
I think Rodgers coming back to the Packers is close to a lock.
I'm more likely than Cousins.
Unless Gutekunst really trips over his own dick. Which, in fairness, today he said something around we'll see on Davante Adams.
Right. I mean,
you can't say we'll see on Davante Adams if you literally can't dress yourself. I'm sorry. Your answer to will you keep the best receiver in the NFL if you wear black on black and look like you're going to a prom whenever you stand in front of microphone has to be yes. Just to be clear. But I think to answer your question, I think that actually Aaron Rodgers is the more certain return. I can't really get a read on what Minnesota's trying to do. And there's enough teams out there that want a quarterback. So Green Bay minus 225, Minnesota plus 350, Chicago plus 650, Detroit plus 1800.
And actually those are different than, so those were the numbers at the beginning of the week. You're even seeing, and I think this is where you take advantage if you're a bettor, currently for the Packers. Or are you looking at current numbers?
Yeah, I was looking at current numbers. What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, the numbers that I put in our doc are like an hour old, and they were minus 165 Packers. So, like,
really?
It looks like things are moving back to where they were early week. That's an interesting development there.
Maybe those are stale. I would take Green Bay.
I mean, Green Bay minus 160. That's the best price you're going to get. There's also
what are the break-even odds on that? 165.
165
is
like just
58% or something.
62%. So you get a little bit. I mean, that's
because here's what you have to bake into this as well. So if you think of this only from the Packers standpoint,
minus 165 is the current number on DraftKings.
Okay, I would go bet that on DraftKings right now. I will after this podcast. I would say this: you're not just thinking about Aaron Rodgers coming back, but there's a world where Aaron Rodgers comes back and Kirk Cousins doesn't, and then it's like, I mean, that is not
somebody said the Bears stink, dude. The Bears have like a bad roster, and like I know they can come up, but like they're not the tail risk that they used to be. And then the Detroit Lions, like I actually think Detroit at 12-1 is the other bet to make in this division if you actually like think that chaos can ensue. Because to me, maximum chaos is Cousins is gone, Rodgers is gone, Adams is gone, Fields doesn't develop, and then Jared Goff's the 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very interesting. Are we gonna transition into
let's do these
futures?
now. We were gonna do these a little later, but let's do these now. By the way, go to pff.com, check out the full write-up on these. But let's go through these now. Where would you like to go next?
Well, the broadest thing I want to say about these is very interestingly, there are no teams right now who are minus 250 or better to win their own division. Like, I think that's cool. I think that like we're in a position.
Because what have the Chiefs been in the past? Like minus 600,
300, 400. Yeah, this time of year, the Bills were in that area last year. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, the Ravens. Actually, no, the Ravens and Browns. The Packers. Once people found out Rodgers was playing, the Bucks last year were like minus 200 at one point. Yep. So I mean, when you look at it, just even looking at the favorites, let's just look at the favorites in every division. So the Tennessee Titans are the favorites in the South. It's minus 125. The Bengals are the favorites in the AFC North. I'm assuming we'll come back to this. Plus 150. The Chiefs are the favorites in the AFC West at minus 175. The Bills are the favorites in the AFC East at minus 225. Dallas is your favorite in the NFC East at minus 160. The Rams are your favorite in the NFC West at plus 150. Packers are your favorite in the NFC North at minus 165. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the favorite in the NFC South at even money. Which one of those?
Most? Well, I'll tell you the ones that are least. I'm not betting on the Bengals to win the AFC North. No way, no how. I'm surprised that the Bucks are still that big of a favorite. I mean, I know that they're plus money, even money at 100, plus 100, but like there is a lot of question there around the quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of ways that can go. My favorites, though, my gut reaction as you read those through is, gosh, the Rams just won the Super Bowl. And they're plus 150. And I know that the Niners have been good, but they're 2-1 with Trey Lance.
A lot of projection there.
A lot of projection, but it also tells me that maybe the market is starting to think that there's a chance for Tom Brady. Because if this is for sure Trey Lance, man, that's a lot of projection. I think that is a lot of projection. He was not good last year. They were not good with Trey Lance. So I would bet on the Rams at plus 150.
Do you think that there's a little bit of the market looking at Arizona? Arizona plus 600 last year to win the division. Were a win against Seattle in week 18 away from winning in the division.
Yeah.
Like, right, the Rams lost to
But
the
they're not
Niners.
going to sneak up on anybody this year.
Sure, but I actually think that the market is maybe believing that there's a little bit of a rift there with Murray.
And that's why he's not.
And that's why the Niners are 2-1, because as much as you can like poo-poo the Niners for their quarterback position, everything else seems to be pretty good for them. Coach, general manager, defense, offensive line,
Tom
weapons.
Brady. Yeah.
But like with the Rams, I think that there is some price baked in of the fact that like the Rams weren't even above 500 last year against the spread. They, at some point, I think the market might not be baking in how good they are at avoiding injuries. But I agree. I do think the Rams would be my take. Seattle's going to fall apart at some point. It's one of those situations where I don't think Russell Wilson has as much utility to the Seahawks as he does to another team, because I don't think the Seahawks can really support him anymore. So that one's one that's
Here's the point with the Seahawks, and this is what came through last year. The Seahawks are a below average unit across the board. Like, look at all of their different units.
No, they're terrible.
And look at their PFF grade, and you'll see 20s, 23, 24, 25. You can do that obviously on PFF.com, but like, that's the worry there. Let me ask you about this division, because this is the shortest that the Chiefs odds have been in a while, right? Or sorry, the longest that they've been in a while. They're plus 175. The Chargers are 4-1. The Broncos are plus 450, which to me is kind of saying a little bit. Again, like, we don't know anything about who their quarterback's going to be. And the Raiders are 10-1.
I would say almost all of the Chiefs' uncertainty is going to the Raiders. Like the Broncos and Chargers were kind of these numbers last year, plus 400, plus 450. The Raiders, and there's a lot of hold to these, by the way. Like we talked about hold on the last podcast. There's like 20-something% to these. I'd have to even like look at the exact number. It's substantial, and as the season progresses, there's going to be less. As the offseason progresses, there's going to be less and less hold. And that, so if you like favorites, bet them later, because the hold percentage, the percentage of the market that is hold is going to go down. But for these, for example, you have a hold percentage of, actually, there's only 10% in these, so which that's actually not so bad. But here I think like the Raiders are they're getting a little bit more love than they otherwise would. Right. And there's like a little bit more of like this chaos factor, associated with this division, because the Chiefs, almost lost it last year, and the Chargers and possibly the Broncos. Like the Broncos just don't even just have the Aaron Rodgers feather in the cap. They are the Russell Wilson possible destination. They're the Kirk Cousins possible destination. They are, I don't think Brady would ever go there if he were to unretire, but they're a destination spot for some quarterbacks.
Even Jimmy G would be an upgrade there.
That thing blowing in the wind though.
Yeah, that
Jimmy G's flutters one out there in the altitude.
That'd be a little rough.
Yeah.
So that it's interesting to me that the distance between the Bills and the Patriots is this big. Do you think that's justified? The Bills are plus 225, and minus 225, and the Patriots are plus 330.
Yeah, and the Jets went from 33-1 just a couple days ago to 25-1, which is basically where they were last year. So there were some people gobbling up some Jets. It looked like good for them.
They're going to be actually those people were all in the same cleanse Rodgers was, and they were looking to evacuate from both sides.
The Dolphins here are a much longer shot than they were last year, right? They were 3-1 or so. I do wonder about them, right? Because the new head coach could really take that thing either way, right? They could ascend and Tua could be great, or like all the stuff Brian Flores was doing that we can't that is difficult to measure could just fall by the wayside. And then now you have this like first time head coach trying to steer a rudderless ship. I think the Bills should be higher. The Bills are a house to me. I don't know. They do lose Dable. They kept Leslie Frazier, which is good. They get Mike Kafka, Mike Kafka went to the Giants, but they lose Dable, which I think is a bigger deal. But they're just not a desperate team. Like, when's the last time the Bills did something where you looked at them like, man, that was to try to fix a problem today? All their draft picks, all their moves are like a year or two ahead. It is the team with like the least amount of holes in football, are they not?
I would tend to agree there.
Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator for the Bills.
Yeah, that's the one.
Former Niners legend, by the way.
I think that's definitely the right way to view it. I'd be interested to see what Dable does in New York, because I kind of am of the mind that, look, it's hard to tease apart. Did he help Josh Allen become better, or did Josh Allen becoming better help Dable look really good? That I think will be interesting. Oh man, and I hate to say this, but it's a little like Freddie Kitchens-ness to it. I don't think it's going to happen. That's going to happen, but let's look at
you body typing offensive coordinators is my favorite, by the way. That was a body type. That was a Daryl. That was a Daryl Morey undoing project. Yeah. First chapter.
Maybe. That's
he looks like Freddie. He does look like Freddie Kitchens.
I guess like Freddie Kitchens. Really thought about that.
He's like Freddie Kitchens with a Bic, like for sure.
Oh man, now I actually have to come off that take, because I completely disagree. He's going to be great.
Freddie Kitchens, by the way, did Kitchens go to the Giants? No, he was the Giants last year. Where did he found a job somewhere. We got to find out where our old friend Freddie went.
He dressed up in a suit, got in a blue truck, and showed up for the new
Cleveland
gig.
It just says American football coach on Wikipedia.
That's what he is.
Rough scene.
That's definitely what he is. Here, let me throw this one at you. So the AFC South, the Titans are -125. The Colts are +140. Jags 11-1. Texans 22-1. We love Frank Reich, but what the hell are the Colts going to do at quarterback?
I don't know. Like, do you think
shouldn't the Titans be a bigger favorite here?
I almost said this is the year that the Colts finally take a quarterback in the first round.
Okay, great.
And
give me the Titans at plus or
but they did, but they don't even have a first round pick because they used it on freaking Carson Wentz. My problem with the Colts is I think a lot of times they do a lot of smart things. The fourth down stuff, I think they actually do draft good players. But then they have these things where they're like, under no circumstance are we going to put Carson Wentz under the 75% thing. It's like, well, great. Now you don't have a first round pick. And you, for the first time in a long time, would be drafting in a position to possibly get the best quarterback in the draft because there's not the high end talent that sort of pushes all the quarterbacks to the first 10 picks or so. And now you're freaking screwed.
The Colts might hang a banner for
but I don't actually think that the Titans are the place to go here, though. Because
of course not. I know where you're going with this.
It is the Jaguars at 11-1. It is the Jaguars are the place to bet if you're going to bet this division. And I would not bet this division. This division is the you watch the movies after a bomb goes off. That's what's left of this division. The Titans. Did you see Julio? Look. Did you watch our basketball game the other day? Yeah, and then did you watch Julio Jones try to run against the Bengals in the playoffs? It was Julio Jones is cooked.
Oh no!
And I like Julio Jones. He's one of my favorite players of all time. He's cooked. And then AJ Brown is wonderful. AJ Brown has been in the league for 3 years, and people are already comparing other players who are trying to come in to him. Treylon Burks, for example. Oh, that's the next AJ Brown. AJ Brown's been in the league for 3 years. He's got the next label on him now. He's great. Is he healthy every game? No. Tannehill's predictably gotten worse efficiency-wise every single year from that first Arthur Smith year. Frankly, the fact that I would have loved Zach Taylor to win Coach of the Year because I had a bet on it. But I do agree that Vrabel deserves it because that team was kind of a mess this past year. The fact that they got the 1 seed is an act of God. They're not particularly good. And so I root for chaos here.
Of course you do. The Jaguars are this year's Jets. They've got a new coach coming in. You're all hopped up on Doug Peterson's ice cream, and you're really excited. Let me tell you, the Jags are going to jag here, okay? And I think I don't hate it as a long shot bet, but I think it's a little ridiculous.
You also know that Houston will not compete for anything.
Houston based on what they did this offseason, somehow is even like
worse off,
more absurd than what they did last offseason, which is incredible. I'm gonna laugh when they don't come close to matching Dave Culley's win total.
They're going to be so. I say worse off. I'm a little bit off there. They do have higher draft picks this year, but when you realize that they are going to trade Laramie Tunsil, Brandon Cooks, and then finally Deshaun Watson, and they are going to use the draft capital to draft the likes of Ross Blacklock, like his replacement. They're going to draft like guards and 3 techs and stuff in the first 3 rounds of the draft. It's the same thing. This team, the Houston Texans, will not compete. And so you're basically in a 3-team division. One of the teams in the Colts are in a great spot from a perspective of they're kind of where like Kansas City was under Alex Smith, which is like a pretty good roster, and they're just waiting for the next quarterback opportunity to come. Mm-hmm. And instead of getting lucky like the Chiefs did by failing to trade up for Paxton Lynch, they were the one team that went to the auction, made the highest bid for Carson Wentz, and no one else said anything, a la Uncut Gems. And so then they got stuck with...
what?
You've never seen Uncut Gems?
What? I'm not familiar. How do you say that?
A la?
No. The movie again?
Uncut Gems?
You haven't seen the viral video, huh?
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Oh no! You have to watch this.
Okay, I will. Okay, but you know what I'm saying. So they were the one team.
We need to slice this in here. I watched it like 30 times in a row. I'm not going to spoil it for you because I can't do the voice as well. But you have to watch it. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
So anyway, so like they screwed up, right? And now they don't have anywhere near the ammunition, but they have to let this thing breathe and bleed out a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Reich's not getting fired, Ballard's not getting fired, but I can tell you this, they're not going to be very good, right? And so it's the Titans versus the Jags. And I'll take the upside of Trevor Lawrence over the sort of, whatever Ryan Tannehill is at this point, like a pretty good quarterback, but not a great quarterback. Like, I'll take that as a bet.
Okay. I'm going to try and find this video here. I will say this. The Titans had a lot of injuries last year. They made the big trade for Julio Jones. And what they will react to that and see, look, we were a little too thin. We needed a little more stability there. And saying A.J. Brown isn't healthy all the time is true, but he's also he's amazingly good, and he's the best receiver in that division. Clearly, Tannehill also still the best quarterback. Now maybe Trevor Lawrence takes that from him this year, but I'm not going to bet on him making some quantum leap with a brand new offensive scheme after basically dealing with the most toxic situation in the league last year. Like, that's a lot of projection there. So I still like the Titans in that situation. Okay, let's take a look. You mentioned the top overall pick and the top overall quarterback.
Can we pause for 1 second? This is the bet that I think is either we're all missing it or this is like the market opportunity of the offseason. The Ravens at 2-1 to win the AFC North.
We didn't even talk about this division. Yeah, good
is
point.
The bet. Like, this opened at Ravens plus 225, Bengals at plus 140, Cleveland at 3-1, and Steelers at 7-1. This has gone. Steelers now are at 13-2. Browns are at plus 330, Ravens at 2-1, Bengals now are at plus 150. It's moved towards the Ravens a little bit, but like, make no mistake, you are getting an opportunity here to fade the fact that the team that lost the Super Bowl has to be given some respect by virtue of the fact they made the Super Bowl. But like, come on, like this is something where, I mean, the Ravens, the Bengals were like plus one. They were longer than plus 150 going into December last year. Like, and that was with the Ravens team that lost everybody, and that was with a Cleveland team that had Baker Mayfield waddling around all year and Ben Roethlisberger being who he was. This is a spot where, and it depends upon what you like. If you like kind of like the Cleveland Browns making a play at quarterback, because they have a really good coach, in my opinion, and a good roster from 2 to 53, be my guest. If you like the Ravens, because I said this earlier, the top four of their
most valuable players,
not most valuable, but highest paid players last year missed. It was Humphrey, Peters, Stanley, and Lamar Jackson. Those are their highest paid players this year. They're all barely played last year as a function of how many games are available to them. To me, the Ravens is going to be one where we're all sitting here at the end of the year thinking, what the hell was this number? I think that's my opinion on this entire market, is that's the one place that actually has some value. Real tangible
as
value.
We talked about with the Super Bowl, absolutely. And this is a place where, winning a Super Bowl is such a fluky event in a lot of situations, right? You can have a great bet and it cannot hit. This is one where you're a little less exposed to randomness, right? So I'm with you. I'm riding on that. Let me see if I can get this play. Did you hear that?
Uncut Tom?
Yeah.
Big time.
So by the way, for anyone that hasn't seen this, and if you haven't, you need to go find it and waste the next 30 minutes on it because it's hilarious. Julia Fox, who is dating Kanye West, did this interview where she pronounces Uncut Gems unlike anything you've ever heard in your entire life. And people have made fun of it, and it's really funny, and you should go watch all of them. You should also go to DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook if you are going to be placing some bets on the NBA, and you should be. We're going to talk more about some March Madness stuff and some other sports betting opportunities as we get into the offseason. You should go use promo code PFF on the DraftKings Sportsbook, be an official sports betting partner of the NBA, and then you can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets that you can then go use to place your Bengals division futures bet. So it all works out. It's very nice. If you're in a place where you cannot bet legally, there's also plenty of daily fantasy basketball contests for huge cash prizes on DraftKings. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any NBA team. Get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code PFF at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 and older, minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Speaking of gambling, top quarterback taken. I thought this was really interesting. So Kenny Pickett, plus 120. Interestingly, Malik Willis, plus 150.
By the way, the last 2 weeks on the PFF.com, we've college to pro projections for Pickett and Willis,
which you can go check out, and you should. So Malik Willis from Liberty, small school. Kenny Pickett from Pitt, not a school that a lot of people watch. A couple of quarterbacks that are,
there's watching that's done at Liberty, but not watching their game.
So people that, these are quarterbacks. The point I'm making is these are quarterbacks that have not necessarily been in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Right. Then the field, any other, is plus 350. It's been a while since that has been, that's, I think, exposes what people think about this draft class. Sam Howell is 6-1. Matt Corral, who's probably the favorite, for a little while last season, is 10-1. Desmond Ridder is 40-1. Carson Strong is 80-1. Now, I think both of us looked at this and go, interesting.
Yeah, there's some opportunity.
Interesting, because
by the way, this market does have a hold of about 30%. So
and minimum and limits to how much you can bet.
But yes, more limits. Some limits.
If you just go off of who has played in some high-profile games, the most high-profile games, and actually performed pretty well in them, and then who people are talking about on social media and as they're dissecting players, also who has the story that people can buy into. And when you're evaluating these quarterbacks, like, they all have deficiencies from a playing perspective.
Yeah.
They all graded well. The top three guys, Pickett, Willis, both 90 plus PFF grades. You can see them on the NFL draft big board on PFF.com, by the way. But Desmond Ridder also 90 plus
Desmond
PFF
Ridder
grade.
finished the season extremely well. The thing about these markets, by the way, and this is why I like Ridder here, one of the reasons is, these markets are not sharp right away. So PFF Live show, I said, hey, take Evan Neal. It was 12-1 when I took him. to be first overall pick. Now Evan Neal's the favorite. Well, is he like, what's the truth here? Only God really knows who's going to get drafted, right? So like at some point, this isn't like an NFL game where what's going to, it's an interesting thing. Like it's information. Like for all we know, the Jaguars could already know who they're picking.
Yeah,
exactly. So this is sort of Schrodinger's bet at some level for some of these things. Now, the quarterback position's a little different because it's obviously they're not taking a quarterback first overall. So there's got to be chips that fall. So it's much more like a game's being played. Whereas last year's draft, you sort of knew that it was going to be Lawrence,
right,
Wilson, and then like a little uncertainty at 3, a lot of uncertainty at 3, and then 4 was going Pitts, 5 was going Chase. They had already made their decisions. 3 was kind of independent of the rest of the draft in a weird way. But like for these, I mean, you get out there like Justice Mosqueda, one of our friends, very very sharp, does Bleacher Reports, scouting and stuff. I mean, Desmond Ritter's his quarterback 1. Mike Renner, our draft guy, just posted on Twitter this week. He said, look, it might not be that Desmond Ritter is the best quarterback in the draft, but he's the most ready to play year 1.
Yep.
Anthony Tresh, another one for us, works extremely hard on this stuff, does a really good job with these things, likes Desmond Ritter as his quarterback 1. And to some degree, if you look at how these markets change when these mock drafters draft, especially once it gets into somebody like Daniel Jeremiah's brain or something like that, one of these guys posts a mock draft, Evan Silva posts a mock draft with Desmond Ridder being the first quarterback taken, this thing's going to be 9-1.
Yeah.
This thing's going to be 8-1.
40-1 is not going to be there much longer.
Yeah. And
who else I've seen talking about Ridder? Mina Kimes, who does a ton of work on the draft. I think people probably might not know that, but like her word as far as actual analysis being done on the game, as valid as it gets out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so her going, oh yeah, like Desmond Ridder might be my favorite quarterback here. I think that's kind of what she said. I'm just paraphrasing. People will start to look at him a little bit more and want to see him in a good light. And my point is, when you do that, you will. Pickett and Willis did not even come close to playing a team like Alabama, right?
Yeah, and it's not that Ridder played that great in that game, but
he played against them. He did not fall apart and dominated. His team dominated Notre Dame in a really high-profile game. People are going to watch those.
He had 4 big-time throws in that game, which is his highest for a game.
And then people are going to say, tell me the story of Desmond Ridder. And here's what I think is interesting. Desmond Ridder, I'm not sure if he's married or they're engaged or what it is, but has a kid, like is a mature guy. And will come across as, to your point, not only ready to like the most ready to play football wise, but the most ready to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And that, looking at last year's draft class, like think about how last year's draft class was influenced by prior draft classes, where they were like, I got to take the tools he got. I mean, Zach Wilson, he's the next Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
They draft him. It's a complete nightmare. Mac Jones comes out, can barely lift 25 pounds, is out there winning the games with the Patriots. Right. There's going to be a reversion, I believe, this year where it's like, okay, yeah, I could take Malik Willis, but I could also take Desmond Ridder and feel like, safe.
Well, and you look at the NFL standings too, like there's a little bit. So people are talking themselves into sort of that kind of quarterback. Like, and now, granted, when I do my simulations on Ritter's distribution's a little wider than Pickett's is, for example. Pickett, the favorite here. Like, I think a Pickett can really perform well in that sort of offense that he had at Pitt, which is, protect, 5-man protection, throw quick, all that kind of stuff. Not as good in the kind of what I would consider to be the offense to maximize one of these mid-tier early career quarterbacks, which is play action, deep drops, deep down the field stuff.
Are you saying Kenny Pickett's not the next Dan Marino?
I think Kenny Pickett's more like a bad Derek Carr.
What's interesting is I was talking to Austin Gale about this. Rumor has it that Kenny Pickett's hands are very small.
Well, I don't even think it's rumor right there.
Well, whatever. I haven't measured them myself. But like, this is a situation where because these quarterbacks are not known and they're not particularly good, when this kind of news, like Joe Burrow, it comes out that his hands weren't very big, and he's like, "Yeah, you see that picture of me smoking a cigar after I literally incinerated the entirety of college football."
Yeah.
Like the only thing Kenny Pickett's got is that he did a fake slide that enraged like
They lost a really bad game that in his.
He enraged Manny Acho for a segment and got some airtime, right? That was the only thing that like people remember about Kenny Pickett or will see about Kenny Pickett. You're gonna dig up Liberty highlights, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, like who is Malik Willis playing against? Like what is going on here?" And you're gonna pull up Desmond Ridder, and you're gonna go, "Oh, like has actually played real competition, has played well against real competition, is like a stable human being, like all of these things, is from Cincinnati, Ohio, great place where."
Yeah, you look at like for example, NFL teams, as you said, gravitate. So the toolsy guys, Lawrence, Wilson, Fields,
I mean, Lance
were all kind of bad last year, and so you look, and then you survey the seam of teams with winning records. Let's look at teams with winning records in the AFC. Patriots have a Mac Jones type. The Dolphins, 9-8, have a Mac Jones type in Tua. Tua's a little different, but kind of in that mid-tier probably we all see his ceiling. The Raiders have a Derek Carr type, right? They had a winning record. The Steelers had a terrible Ben Roethlisberger, still had a winning record. And then the Colts were 9-8 with a Carson Wentz type, right? So some
draft bad quarterbacks.
What I'm saying is some of these teams that need to get on the green for a year, right? And maybe swing and miss at Kirk Cousins, swing and miss at Derek Carr, swing and miss Marcus Mariota, maybe. Like the quarterbacks to try to get them to that 9-8 range, keep your job. The Vic Fangio is what I call it, are going to maybe look at Ridder and think, okay, he can at least kind of get me there if I can build around him. Look at the NFC. Eagles 9-8. That's a second-round quarterback that they have. The 49ers obviously 10-6 with a Jimmy G type. And then the Saints at 9-8, who were their quarterbacks? Jameis, right? It was sort of skimping out at the position. And I think like instead of like swing, and in a league year where I don't think this year is the worst of them because of all these teams going all in. You have what? Green Bay, possibly Kansas City, Buffalo, maybe like there's a huge crevice between great teams, dog shit teams, and teams that are just trying. Like I would say, if I was a Washington football team, Commanders, whatever, I look at the landscape of the league. I'm like, fuck, if I just get a decent quarterback in here, I'm going to make the playoffs, and I'm going to keep my job for another year.
I don't need to be the Chiefs. I can be the Raiders.
And then look what being the Chiefs got the Chargers is kind of what these teams are kind of thinking, right? They drafted the next Mahomes and Herbert, and the Chargers can't make the freaking playoffs.
Well, what's interesting about that, there's got to be a market right now. I don't have the line in front of me. Do you know what it is for a quarterback not taken in the first round?
No, I think that'll come out. What would you put the number at? Like,
because I think it's
last year it was 4.5. And it was really juiced to over, obviously.
I mean, I think honestly am not sure if the line shouldn't be a half.
Oh, I see that.
So, I mean, I think someone is going to take a quarterback end of the first round, at least like trade up, do what the Ravens did. But there's got to be a world where, look, another ramification of last year was all these teams took quarterbacks and they all sucked.
Yeah, and the teams that
here's the other
won
thing.
The last two Super Bowls are teams that bought a quarterback and put him on a ready-made team.
Here's the other thing. To your point, there's a lot of quarterbacks on the move. I have a kind of prediction. I think Desmond Ridder is a Pete Carroll kind of guy. And they trade Russell Wilson. They get some draft capital back. And the Seahawks take Desmond Ridder, and he's their quarterback next year, and he's the first quarterback taken.
So our own Austin Gale at 11 in his mock draft, which you can go to PFF.com and look at his draft. We have somebody drafting every single Monday. He has Sam Howell, who's 6-1 in the markets, going to Washington, to Seattle via Washington, which I know is weird. Sam Howell going at 11. That appears to be his first quarterback taken.
Can we talk about Sam Howell for a second? And the reason that you shouldn't draft Sam Howell is that
he looks like Baker Mayfield.
He's literally Baker Mayfield.
He has Malik Willis going 18 to the Saints.
He's a tubby, short, white guy that plays rather similarly.
Desmond Ridder he has Desmond Ridder going 20 to the Raiders, which is pretty high for where I've seen him. And then 32 as Matt Corral to the Lions.
Teams do not want to make. They look at recent history, and they go, how do we not make those same mistakes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's honestly like similar to how a lot of bettors bet, where it's like, let me just look at what just happened and then like make a bet. And it's like, okay, that's kind of stupid, but like also we're not here to coach them. We're here to try and act on the way that we believe they will act. And it's relatively predictable.
Yeah, I guess my official number for number of quarterbacks in round 1 would be 3.5 juiced under.
Yeah, I will take the under there.
Yeah. I would probably, 3.5, but it's,
I think it should be 2.5.
2.5 minus 110. The thing is like we do really, really, really overestimate the willingness of teams in the back half of the first round to take a stab. Yeah. I wrote about that with the Mac Jones thing. Remember his prop was 18.5?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Like,
it's the lock of
and
the
we're
century.
like, if he doesn't get, but we were like, if he doesn't get taken by 15, he might not get taken. And that was like when you watched our first draft, analyzing the draft together, it was 2017 when it went Trubisky, Mahomes, Watson was a kind of another one of these drafts where there wasn't a number 1 pick taken at quarterback. That was the last time. And then the Watson Mahomes thing, both guys kind of had question marks, which are funny in hindsight. But then Deshaun Kaiser, everybody's like, oh, Kaiser's a first round pick, and he goes in the second round. 18, it was 18. Lamar almost didn't make it in the first round.
Right, the Ravens had to trade up.
And Mason Rudolph was considered a first round
fairness to your
prospect.
point, though, I think the question marks around Mahomes were valid. I mean, look at,
the second half of the Bengals game. And then
no, I was going to say the performance that his wife put on at the basketball game.
Oh gosh.
That would be where I would go. Another memeable situation. Okay, that was a very interesting conversation. Go run, take Desmond Ridder 40-1. Join us. The Desmond Ridder Syndicate has begun.
The Anthem Syndicate 1-0.
Get on the train.
The Justin Fields Syndicate 0-1. The Trey Lance Syndicate 1-1.
That syndicate was a little bit of, it was the not Mac Jones Syndicate. That's what it was. Yes. Remember this. Okay. We're going to do a couple of recommendations here before we do. Reminder that if you are looking to get your money right, go check out our sponsor, Western and Southern Financial Group. And they will help you make some really smart money moves, whether it's buying your first home, planning to start a family, all power to you. Wondering how to make your money grow, which everyone should be. Western and Southern has got a playbook for life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions that will make sure that you're ready to go when game day comes. So team up to understand and address goals and to get a game plan that is custom built for you. WesternSouthern.com/PFF to get that custom built for you. You don't want to deal with this yourself. So go let some professionals do it and then relax and enjoy the rest of your life, like betting on Desmond Ridder at 40-1. Recommendations. By the way,
you go first this time. I went first last time.
Some really good, some cool feedback on the Quibi shows. Got a call from a streaming service. They want to make Wired. They thought Wired was a great show. No, I'm kidding. I kind of had you there.
Well, I was thinking of The Wired would be kind of cool.
The Wired would be
just I thought.
There's no way that show does well.
Like if I was running Ballsack Sports, you know what I would call it?
No, I don't.
The Onions. That would right? It would be perfect.
That's good. The Onions. Okay. All right. I have a couple of different recommendations. I am going to give a recommendation that I'm not sure I have given before. I think I have, but I'm gonna give it again. I'll pair it with another one just in case. But I've had a couple conversations with people over the last couple of weeks on struggling to find jeans to buy.
Oh, okay.
And now that the pandemic is coming to an end, you can start going out again. Now. You got to wear jeans again. I'm very persnickety about this. And remember, I also do not wear underwear. So when I tell you that I like a pair of jeans and they're comfortable, that means something. I have become a disciple of the Sweat Tailor denim because it doesn't feel anything like denim. They're remarkably comfortable and they are pretty form-fitting, but they also I have proportionally larger thighs, I guess you could say, which makes it uncomfortable for me to wear a lot of jeans. And I do not have this issue with Sweat Tailor. They're made for people with an athletic build, which is giving me probably too much credit, but I recommend them. I have them in 5 different colors and they're not even a sponsor currently. So You can take my word for it. That is my recommendation that you may have heard before. My recommendation that you
oh gosh, we get 2.
You get 2. I mean, you're welcome, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
The recommendation that I have not given before that I will give now, which is one that is about food.
Okay.
Are you ready for this one? Okay. This is going to sound weird to people, but the best like side dish that you can make, like easy one to make, you can cook them once and then just like reuse them throughout the week. I do this every week. I buy Japanese sweet potatoes, which are the purple sweet potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You take them, you clean them, just scrub them with water, throw them in the freezer. Throw them in the freezer for at least an hour. Okay. Take them out of the freezer, put them in the oven at 450. Leave them in there for an hour. It's pretty hard to overcook them. Pull them out. And instead of like soggy ass sweet potatoes, you get like a great fluffy consistency. You can eat them then warm. You can throw them in the fridge and they're good for a week. So you're welcome. I've solved your meal prep situation.
Mine is very, so remember when Slack was down yesterday? I thought it was very like interesting because I listened to a podcast called the Ezra Klein podcast.
Heard's good.
Not very free. Like I listen every once in a while, but it was called Stop, Breathe. We Can't Work Like This Anymore. It was with Cal Newport. Cal Newport wrote the book Deep Work. Very good. And they literally spend a podcast talking about how Slack, like talking about the positives and negatives of Slack, which is interesting. Like it literally came out the day Slack went down. I thought that was very interesting.
3.9 rating on the App Store.
Slack
does.
I mean, I see it.
It weirdly has
come and
been
get us for
slower and slower.
Come and get us for a sponsorship if you want one.
Are there alternatives to Slack that are actually good? This is what we need. We need a recommendation.
VSIN uses Skype still. So like when I do my
it's not Skype.
It's not Skype. I mean,
it's not GChat.
GChat. Yeah, we did
Microsoft
GChat.
Teams. It is not.
Yeah.
Zoom should grab that because like Zoom already has the video part of it.
Right.
If they had a legitimate,
yeah, they were and like
because Slack's video sucks.
Yeah. This is something like I'm trying to work on like every single off season. I'll like delete Twitter and like all that from my phone and like try to kind of wean because like during the season we're always like engaging with people and stuff like that and we still need to do that quite a bit.
Yeah, you're just blocking people, but sure.
Yeah. Well, and so like, but one of the things that like about Slack that's sort of one of the negatives is like you're always sort of like on beck and call, right? Mm-hmm. Where like people who do knowledge work for like they have to be able to like distance themselves from people. So it'd be interesting if they had some sort of like, and maybe Slack does this and I'm just too stupid to know, but like have something where like the whole thing shuts down for 40 minutes at a time. Like it literally gives you like windows from which to talk to people. Like I think that would be kind of interesting.
Slack. You can like,
okay, good.
Do not disturb and like.
Yeah, but the do not disturb thing, you still get. You can still.
You can snooze notifications.
Sure, but there's still like the urge. I'm not even talking about like you can block people off for sure, and you can block people off at Twitter and stuff. And I know that there must be apps where you can literally have like Slack be there, but then like close completely down, and you can't like touch it. That's what I need.
So you have no self-restraint is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, look, like
new recommendation is for you to do a 12-day cleanse with Aaron Rodgers. So
I need it in. You can feel both in and out. I need Slack.
That was our podcast. We love you all. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on Sunday.